What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso. Saturday, 12-pack. Going to have this published a little before Ohio State, Indiana kicks off. Make sure you catch up on today's TOJ podcast, catch up on Buck the Trend, catch up on Connor's Film Room. There's content everywhere. I also just crashed Will's recording like an amateur hour idiot. Got to pay attention to Riverside when you log in. That's on me. Going to give my Jets Dolphins predictions. Going to answer some questions from the Discord because we got a nice backlog again. Going to remind you to go to badlandstoj.com, get a Badlands beanie before they're gone, get a Yeti before they're gone, get the rest of our gear marked down before we close the old website and open the new website. Get it going. A lot of good stuff there. Anyway, Jets Dolphins. I said a few weeks ago that Jet fans needed to wrap their heads around the team winning a few more games before the season ended. It was just going to happen, and getting yourself all upset about the tank and the draft pick. This isn't the year to do that because the Jets, you could just see with how they're playing since the Cowboys game, weren't going to be a 1-16, 2-15 team. It felt that way at a certain point this year, and I'm guilty of kind of leaning into that. It's just been a different team the past 5-6 games in particular, and I'm not surprised they beat Atlanta. I picked them to beat Atlanta. They beat Atlanta. I am going to pick them to win again at home against Miami. Now, much like I said last week, are the Jets a better team 10 out of 10 times than Miami? Probably not. Miami's played good football the last few weeks. They got an impressive win over Buffalo. They sweated one out against Washington and the Saints. They didn't play great in that Saints game, but they won. And they're still alive. They have a bit of a pulse. They're 5-7. Seems like they're going to run it back with the Tua McDaniel duo next year. And the Jets have been awful against that duo, and they had an embarrassing loss against them earlier this year. And it's important for Aaron Glenn in his continued development and improvement of this team to show he could beat Tua and beat Mike McDaniel and win division games. And the Jets are rightfully 2.5-point underdogs in this game as it stands right now, despite being at home. It was the exact same thing with Atlanta. I think the line was the same. It actually closed at 3. I think it will probably be similar. This one closes at 2 or 3. And I think there's good value in the Jets because I think these teams are close. I think it's going to be 38, 39 degrees at kickoff. We know what Tua's history is in that kind of condition. Miami's going to be able to run the ball in the Jets. They're going to move the ball much like Atlanta did. I think Achan's going to do somewhat similar work to what Bijan did, and I wouldn't be shy about touching his overs. I think the Jets defense will hold Miami to a few field goals. I think the Jets will decisively win on special teams because they do every single week. I think, again, they're incredibly due for a turnover, and Tua is the kind of quarterback who will throw you one or two. It has to happen one of these weeks, and when the Jets finally get some turnover luck in their direction, that's going to be something that makes their life much easier. I think offensively, the Jets are going to be able to run the hell out of the football. They ran the hell out of the football in the first matchup, and if Braylon Allen doesn't fumble, I think that's a completely different game. So I like Breece Hall's overs in this one. Still riding Mitchell and Mechie, knowing that they're both going to get a ton of opportunities, right? They're both going to get 5, 6, 7, 8 targets. Mechie had about 3 drops last week. I don't think that's going to happen again. So I think you get some good value on the over on his receptions. They're going to take shots with Mitchell down the field. Every single game they've thrown down the field to him, whether it's drawing pass interference or catching the long one for the touchdown he did against the Falcons. So I like the value in the over on his yards. The underdog bet I put together and that I'll share out after this has like Mitchell over 50 yards, has Achan over like 75 yards rushing, and Breece over like 60 yards rushing. I think the teams are going to move the football in this game. And for me, it kind of feels like low 20s for each of them, mid 20s, and the Jets win 24-20, 24-21. Close game, back and forth. Again, not overly dissimilar from the Atlanta game, but I think the Jets will be right there and make a play late. And I think, again, the special teams keeps tipping things in their favor, and I don't know why that has to stop. They have a great punter. They have a great kicker. They have a great returner. They have great coverage units. I think that's going to be an advantage for them. I think Tua will struggle a bit, particularly later in the game. And the Jets will make enough plays to narrowly win. And again, that moves them to 4-9, gets them a nice division win. We'll see where the chips land with the draft pick. The game next week obviously is harder. We have a Jacksonville team that we want to beat the Colts out for the division. We also want the Texans to get ahead of the Colts. Like, there's a real world the Colts missed the playoffs. They have a brutal remaining schedule. And if you're the Jets, man, that is a home run on this trade. You're already getting, it looks like, more value than maybe you expected from Mitchell. And if that Colts pick is like 18 and not 27, that trade looks that much more savvy. So we're all big Jags fans this week before the Jets play them next week. Also rooting for the Texans against the Chiefs. Beyond that, Cowboys lost already, which is good for the second round pick. They're not going to be a playoff team this year, so we don't have to worry about that. And, for the Jets, they're going to be relatively healthy again in this one. Brownlee, I think, is going to be out again, and, you can't do Taylor again at nickel. I think you'll see a mix of Isaiah Oliver. Stiggers is also banged up. I don't think it's going to be a game time decision. I think he's going to play. He's obviously more with the special teams value right now, but I'd like to see the Jets get creative and rotating through in the secondary. Maybe that's Jordan Clark. Maybe it's more Dean Clark. I don't know, but try something different at nickelback this week because that's where teams attack the Jets. Darren Waller is probably also good value. If you're looking for a prop bet, right, teams kill the Jets with their tight ends, and that's been a Sherwood Quincy problem that we haven't seen has ability to be fixed. But I think Tyrod will play well. Looked confident last week, looked more mobile. He's got a lot of experience now playing at MetLife, the Giants and the Jets the last few years, and I think he could play Tua to a draw, mostly because of the weather. It's going to be cold, and that's not where Tua thrives. So picking the Jets to win twice in a row and feeling kind of confident about it. I think they're good value at plus 2.5. I think this game's a coin flip, and I like the way they're playing right now overall, and I've liked the way they've played generally since the Cowboys game. Obviously, there were some very ugly moments against the Broncos and Panthers, and you just wonder if they pulled Fields at halftime of the Broncos game for Tyrod, and then they give Tyrod the full week of practice before the Panthers. You wonder if they could have won both of those games, never mind the Pittsburgh game, which I won't mention anymore. Anyway, let's answer some Discord questions because we got a bunch. From Jersey Jets, from the Jets perspective, what would you be willing to trade for Cam Ward? From the Titans perspective, is there any scenario where they could justify such an unprecedented move? Nothing surprises me in the NFL anymore. This GM drafted him, our guy Borgonzi. I'd be shocked if they moved on. He's been bad this year, but he's also in a horrible situation. I think they're going to try to find an offensive-minded coach who makes his life easier and really try to make it work for him. They'll leak out that they're considering quarterback, but that's just smoke to try to get someone to trade up. For the Jets, it's hard, man. I think maybe you're offering 2 second-round picks or something, a second and a fourth. I don't know how you're going to pay more than that because I know you like the talent of Ward, but statistically, you didn't see enough this year where you're giving up a first for him. And I don't know how much I'd advocate that move. I mean, it would be interesting, and I could be wrong, and Ward could be an all-pro 3 years from now. I'd be shocked if the Titans move on from him. But for the Jets, you want to make a call, why not? Because if you end up picking 9th or 10th and, Moore doesn't come out and Simpson's 50-50 and we'll see what happens with Mendoza coming out of the Ohio State game, maybe that's a different kind of option for you. But I expect Cam Ward to be the Titans quarterback next year. St. Nicholas, is there any scenario where the opportunity of drafting Jeremiah Love is too good to pass up for the Jets? We need weapons, and there's arguably none better than this draft class. I don't know, man. I have a really hard time seeing them take a running back high. I could be wrong. We know they almost drafted Gibbs a few years ago. That might have been cool. That was a different regime, though. I really think what I'm thinking where the first 4 picks are going to go, of course, quarterbacks in the discussion, receiver, edge rusher, defensive tackle, maybe safety. I'd be very surprised with running back. I think the team is focused on bringing Brees back. I think Isaiah Davis will be back. I think Braylon Allen will be back. And maybe they throw a day 3 dart, but I'd be shocked. I never write anything off anymore, but I want to see this team go get more pass catchers, maybe even further boost up tight end to go with receiver. So I'd be surprised by that one. Next one from Harlan from SC. What do people think of this? Would the Jets even consider it? Jets trade Justin Fields and a 5th round pick. 49ers, Mac Jones. I don't know why the 49ers would do that. I think they think Mac Jones is important to their infrastructure, and they're going to have a high asking price for them. He played well this year. Purdy gets hurt a lot. And do they think Fields could step in and win them games like Mac Jones did? I don't know. I mean, for the Jets, I would do that trade in a heartbeat. I don't think Fields is ever going to play a snap here again. I think it's done. They'll just eat the money, and I think teams are kind of aware of that and will wait the Jets out. The Jets aren't carrying him on their team next year. Even if they say all the right things, he won't be on the team next year. So I think he'll get cut. Maybe the Vikings take a flyer. Maybe the Niners take a flyer in that scenario, but I don't think you're getting Mac Jones in that package. Next one. I'm going to keep scrolling. From JP Waxer, what are the odds it's Bubble Wrap who gets the first interception? I say it's inevitable because it's hilarious. He's among the guys who's gotten like their last, I think it's like the last 10 interceptions I went through for the Jets, which like spanned 2.5 seasons. And most of them are Ashton Davis or Brandon Eccles. Tony Adams is in there. He's had like 2 or 3 in the past 2 years. Wouldn't shock me. He's out there a lot. He's a safety. I think he could fall blindly into one at some point. Obviously, we'd all want to see Azaria get it or Malachi Moore, but it will probably be Stevens or Adams. That wouldn't shock me. Tua's going to throw them one. I think they get one this week. I don't know if it's going to be like an amazing play from Adams, but it would not shock me if he got the first interception of the season at all. The next one more, and then I'll wrap it here. We got a big day of college football, too. You got to start locking in here. From Adam, something I've noticed, and I'm wondering if it's accurate. Are the Jets healthier this year than previous years? It feels like the injury report week by week is shorter than years past. And in particular, the offensive line has stayed healthy since ABT's injury. I also just looked up and they hired a new director of player performance in February. Does this pass the eye test and do the metrics agree? Yeah, I mean, they have been healthier this year, and I'm glad they finally made a change, right? And some of this is luck, right? But clearly they're doing some things differently in terms of how they practice, how they rehab, how they treat players. It's been better this year, knock on wood. It hasn't been perfect. Garrett's missed time. Brownlee's missing some time now, but that's every team. Everyone's going to have injuries. I do agree that it just doesn't feel as insane as it did down the stretch in the Saleh era where, especially last year, man, how many guys were 50-50 and just like, I'm not playing. Whereas this year, I feel like guys are really pushing, and even a guy like Garrett's going to push to get back, whether that's wise or not, TBD. But I think these guys want to get out there, whereas with where this team was at their version of 3-9 last year, I don't know if that was really the case. One more. From Bubble Wrap, great name. Let's assume the Jets win another game or two and end the year. They draft Carnell Tate instead of a quarterback with their top 10 pick. The team will find itself in a tough predicament with no answer at QB. The fan base, rightfully so, will not have the stomach for another 4-13 season. AG will have pressure to compete for a playoff spot. If he succeeds, we'll have to trade capital in a draft that everyone says is elite. If the Jets do compete next year, we'll have to trade at least one of our first to get a QB. If we stink again, do you really want Glenn to be the guy taking a QB? It feels like Glenn has a team on the right track, but it feels like there's no easy answer. What do you guys think? I mean, you're right. There is no easy answer, right? Aaron Glenn's job is to improve the team and win football games. And I think when it's all said and done, he's going to look at this year. The Jets will look at this year and say, we started 0-7. We probably left 2 games on the bone that we should have won. We finished 5-5. We're headed in the right direction. Next year, we expect to go from 5-12 to 8-9, 9-8, regardless of our quarterback situation. We're going to figure it out. Might be Tyrod, might be a late first round pick, might be Tanner McKee, might be Davis Mills. We've been through all these names, but there's not an easy answer. And if they're better next year, they are good. That's why they have so much draft capital. And it sucks, but like if there's 6 first round quarterbacks next year and you have 3 first round picks and you're second, you're going to be proactive to go get your young guy if you're stuck in purgatory still and you don't take your guy this year. And eventually you got to push your chips in and make a move. And you don't want to force it, but Glenn will get rope, I think, from the org and the fan base if this year continues on the way it has the last few games, and then that carries into next season. Like, you wonder if the Jets just started Tyrod from week 1 this year, and he stayed healthy, which is a huge if because he hasn't shown an ability to stay healthy. But, they had a Tyrod-level quarterback. They're probably like 5-7 right now, something like that, maybe 6-6. Let's call it 5-7. And I think most people would have been like, yeah, that's pretty damn good coming after what we did last year. And let's see how they finish the season. They still may finish with 5 or 6 wins. So it's a hard spot, but that's why you have all the picks, man. You got 2 ones this year. You got 3 next year. Eventually, you got to take a swing and make it happen. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Check back tomorrow. Jetheads at 11 a.m. Post-game party. I'm calling it around 8:30, 9 o'clock with me and Connor on the feed. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy your college football. Talk to everybody soon.